the most powerful Talisman character to play. That's what we're going to explore, or I should say, build a checklist in this vlog, because that question is part a matter of perspective, certainly, but also what other characters are in play. There are certain characters that just straight off the draw are extremely powerful. Then there's other characters that are powerful if other characters are in combination. Also, how big is the game? And likewise, what expansions are in play? Generally, when we play Talisman, my group, we play everything. All expansions, everything in. The stack of character cards is massive. And the way we play that, kind of a hybrid between classic draw and house rules. Shuffle them up, draw 3 cards. Everyone draws 3 cards. You then look at your 3 character cards and you pick the one that you want to play. This way, for the most part, you have a good chance of getting a character type that you like to play. But if you don't get that character because all the characters are in play, then at least you have some choices. Then all the cards go back, they get reshuffled. If you die in the game, then you get to blind draw. You get 1 pick anywhere in the deck. There you go. That's what you play. So my ranking in terms of characters would follow this matrix, and this is kind of the assessment. And sometimes if it's a bigger game, you don't always want the most powerful character. A lot or a little depends on how you play the game, meaning we're all trying to grab the crown of command, but some games are a little more cutthroat than others. But there are times where if you draw an extremely powerful character, the other players might look to gang up on you and say, look, we can't let Fritz run around with this character because this is our chance to stop him at a lower level. Once he starts gear farming and gets some pets and potions and get a couple of followers, then we're in trouble. Or just by some random luck of the draw, if he draws an early game powerful object like the orb or the rune sword, then we're even in bigger trouble. So let's put aside our differences for the moment, bash on Fritz for a bit, and have him draw another character. So you don't always want the most powerful character. The most powerful characters in the game can, for the most part, utilize magic. They might be an example like the wizard that begins with magic and continually feeds magic. They might be some that start with magic and have high craft to utilize magic. Magic is very, very important in Talisman, simply because, for the most part, it offers the opportunity to break the turn cycle, right? It's my turn to go. So I have a choice. Use an object, roll the dice, move, interact, combat, resolve a location, resolve an event, and then I pass on my turn. Magic allows, when it's my turn and I'm going to do something, potentially another player to hit me with a card. Maybe the random, hit me with the random, or hit me with some sort of interrupt. For that reason, having magic at your command to break out of order, to break out of turn, is absolutely huge. There are also utilizations of magic in your turn directly, Psionic Blast, other ways to kind of bolster your attack. There's ways to increase craft, ways to increase strength. There's also the ability to destroy, or like destroy object or acquisition. These allow you to affect the game. Magic stacks. And this isn't turning into a magic power of magic of Talisman vlog. But magic stacks because you have magical abilities, but you also have maybe other abilities, plus your craft, plus your strength, plus the usual followers and objects and everything that you grab. So generally speaking, magic is random, but they tend to be the more powerful characters. It's going to be modified slightly by the size of your magic deck. What I mean by that is, are you just playing base game? Or are you playing multiple expansions, which now add more possibilities into the game? Second would be characters that can modify or change the dice. One of the big things in Talisman, and I've pushed this up to my Talisman playlist here on my channel, understanding that Talisman is not just roll and move. It's not just roll a d6, draw a card, roll another d6, done. It's your turn. There's some stuff going on under the hood. And when I started playing Talisman back in the day, I was introduced to the game where we would play Dungeons and Dragons. We play Dungeons and Dragons all day. And then we play Talisman all night. And one of the things that I noticed was my best friend Jawa Balls would always win the game. He'd win tremendously if he had a powerful character, but even if he had one of the less powerful characters, he'd still win. You'd nuke him, he'd come from behind, he'd win. I mean, not every game, but like 8 out of 10. So I really started watching what he was doing and how he was utilizing things. And that combined with my wargaming experience, I began to realize you need to be able to control and influence the dice. Fate, the ability to add +1 to a die roll, the ability to get a re-roll, the ability to change things, the ability to, like the Lucky Charm? The 4-leaf clover, that magical object, the ability to pick your dice roll. That is huge. So there are certain characters. Roll 2 dice when you attack. Stampede. Add your movement value. Other types of things. An attack, roll an extra d6. Those things stack. Those things are massive because it's not quite, and of course it's modified by the expansions you have in play. But essentially there's 3 things in the game. Combat is 1/3. Second, events. And third is acquisition, objects and followers and gold and items. So being able to manipulate the dice for combat, and again, adding, changing, multiplying, that's huge. That's huge because being a quest for the Crown of Command, that could potentially let you level up much, much quicker, allowing you to make that run for the Crown of Command if you're going to go on the craft side, mainly on the strength side, but also a little bit on the craft side. So we're looking for characters that have that ability. Third would be characters that have a higher than average starting strength or craft. And most of the characters that have a higher than average would be strength. An example would be like the classic character, the Troll. That's going to give you an early lead. We talk about this idea, and I know we're jumping into some different tactica, but it is important to frame for the character. And I've pushed a more detailed tactica for how to win at Talisman up to my playlist here on the channel. We break up the game into the start of the game, mid-game, and end game. End game is when you're making that run for the Crown of Command. And ideally, you go through certain stages of the game leveling up. So I'm at the beginning of the game. I reach a certain point. Now I move to the middle of the game, and there's different objectives there. Then I move to the end game. Sometimes those things accelerate, like just a couple of turns. My friend gets really lucky, and he goes from mid to end game, and he is ready to go. I've got to stop him right now, or I've got to beat him for the race to the Crown of Command. I'm not quite ready yet, but we got to make it happen. We got to go. So in the beginning of the game, when you're trying to level up either strength and or craft, depending on your strategy, having a higher than average start is huge because that's like 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 free turns because you're already at a higher level and you'd have to fight X number of encounters and trade them in for trophies to get that bump. Starting at that is huge. So you want to aggressively be able to use that. The final piece of characters that they're kind of interesting to play. They can be powerful, but they're very, very, well, Talisman. And I love playing these characters. I mean, I want to win, but I played so many great games of Talisman. I'm going to try and win and give you the best game that I can. But I want to have lots of crazy, crazy stuff. I want to see people get totified. I want to see people getting killed by a strength 1 mountain goat. I want to see like just crazy, crazy stuff. So I like a little bit of the random. But if we're just talking the meta in terms of powerful characters, the Dark Cultist, I really enjoy playing her for that narrative and playing her for that opportunity. But essentially, you roll on a chart to gain rewards. Now, some of them are potentially powerful. Some are okay. Some are like everything else in Talisman, not bad, but not so great. Now, I can potentially control that roll or modify it, but I'm burning fate, and I want to save fate for something else. Or if I'm burning, again, like the Lucky Charm, magic object Four-leaf clover, I could burn that for a dice roll, but I'm burning that stuff. I'm getting rid of it in play. Characters like that, where you roll for random stuff to happen, if you roll legendary, it's really powerful. You're going to do great, and it's going to give you a pretty powerful jump and let you navigate around the usual ways to power up. But at the same time, you could just roll some lackluster stuff, and it's not really that powerful. So this final tier of characters, while they're fun to play, they're too random, and they don't interface enough with the core mechanics of the game to guarantee consistent. That's not to say you want to run into the dungeon and get yourself killed right away, but it's a little bit different from that. So I'm going to turn it over to my fellow Talisman enthusiasts. And I love playing all of the characters. I do. From that perspective, Tier 1 characters, the absolute most powerful in the game. Like if Fritz draws this character, we got to get him killed right away because he'll be unstoppable. If my boy Jawa grabs that character, it's like all 6 of us, we got to kill him right away. Tier 2 would be characters that are powerful, but they give you enough of a lead in the beginning of the game. So we want to capitalize on that. Tier 3 being they're fun, they're cool, they're quirky, they're totally Talisman, but there's a little too much random to try and control. May give you a lead, may not give you a lead.